we'll get going.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
My Queen and my Mother, I give myself entirely to you, and to show my devotion to you, I consecrate to you this day my eyes, my ears, my mouth, my heart, my whole being without reserve. Wherefore, good Mother, as I am your own, keep me, guard me, as your property and possession. Amen. My Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, brother. You ready to go? All good?
Ready to rock and roll, brother.
Let's do it.
Okay, you still cannot hear the intro music, so we will visually signal you.
He's a volunteer, man. Volunteers.
We take breaks. You taking a break?
Yeah, we're going. Ready?
Oh, good.
Oh, no. And welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass. I'm Adam Minhan, sitting here with David Niles, and we have our favorite Cajun in the house, Mr. Karlo Broussard. Karlo, thanks so much for hanging out with us, bud.
Hey guys, it's great to be with y'all.
This is going to be
Remember, he's the Cajun uncaging the truth.
Cajun uncaging the truth. That is the slogan that we gave you. So when you make millions off of it, remember us.
I love it, man. I'll have to put that on my tombstone when I get buried 6 feet under, right? Compliments of Adam and David.
That's epic. If you can make it on somebody's tombstone,
that means you did something well.
You were impactful.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
right.
Karlo, before we get going on obviously we have the man beverage, we have the man gear. I just want to let you know I have been wanting to do this topic for, I would say, a year.
Long time.
It's been a long time, and I knew that Dave and I could.
Pretty high, brother.
Well, I knew Dave and I couldn't do it ourselves because it's not a topic that we're experts on, and so
or even close,
or even
even amateurs.
Right? Yeah, I agree. But we knew we wanted to have somebody on that we could figure out how can we talk about it where everybody else can figure. It's still on everybody else's level. Because we're talking about philosophy today. That's what we're going to talk about. And a lot of, philosophers will be, at least for me, way over my head. They'll start talking about the causes, efficient causes. I mean, sometimes they're just, right? And so the goal was trying to find somebody who knows what they're talking about, but yet can talk on my level. Hence, why we have you here. Which I'm pumped about.
I'm flattered, Adam. Thank you, brother. Hopefully I can live up to those expectations, man. Because one of the things I get critiqued on the most is I get too heady sometimes, and I fly over people's heads. My mom always tells me, Karlo, you got to define those terms. That's too heady knowledge for me. My mom is always a good gauge for me, brother.
She sounds like
always telling
she gives good advice.
That's too big a word, son.
Before we get going, also I want to make sure that we mention last time we had you on, you had just finished your book, Prepare the Way. You can get that at Catholic.com or Amazon, I'm sure. But to give us a little brief blip on what Prepare the Way is.
Yeah, so the title is Prepare the Way. Subtitle is Overcoming Obstacles to God, the Gospel, and the Church. And that's primarily what the book is about. So it's written for the Catholic, primarily, who's going out and evangelizing, and I coach you in strategies on how to remove obstacles to truth, God, Jesus, Christianity as a religion in general, and the church. And so it's primarily to equip you to evangelize unbelievers, skeptics, people who might be skeptical of the Christian religion and Jesus, and then unbelievers and skeptics who have their own beefs with the Catholic Church. So it's not obstacles that Protestants would have with the Catholic Church, such as Mary, the Saints, Pope, etc. But certain obstacles that unbelievers from the outside might have or struggle with, some things that unbelievers might struggle with when they're looking into the Catholic Church. So the idea of ritual seems pretty superstitious, all those relics and stuff. The idea of our stance on human sexuality, right? Our stance on abortion, certain things like that. So people are digging it. They're enjoying it. They're getting a lot out of it, and it's helping them in their dialogue. So I would encourage your listeners and viewers to get a hold of it at shop.catholic.com.
And we know that it's been effective. We've had guys on the Council of Man say that they just finished reading it and how helpful it was. So
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
So anyway, so we have a very special beverage tonight, Karlo. Dave, I'll let you received it. So I'll let you kind of tell the story behind the beverage.
Okay, so Council of Man member Michael Moore sent this to us. He's a newer member-ish.
Sure.
And he and I talked. It's difficult to ship alcohol to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But he was able to make it work. This is a bottle of wine that he was a big fan of. He even recorded
the tasting notes.
the tasting notes. He had like a wine expert record them, and he sent them to me, and I listened to them. It was about a month ago though, and so I've totally forgotten
Most
all
of it?
what they said. And we just now started recording, and I said, "Oh, I meant to listen to that again before we started." So we're gonna test our abilities.
Our palate.
When we're done, I'm gonna go back and listen to it again for sure.
Yeah. And see
if
how wrong we were.
See if we get it anywhere close.
We'll post it on Facebook once we figure
Okay,
it out.
because wine is not what we're practiced at.
Yeah.
Hey, man, just act like you know what you're talking about, brother.
Yeah.
That's what we do all the time.
All right, so here we go. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Now, before I'm going to taste it, before you start tasting it, I want you to tell them the story because
Okay.
this is something that you have to tell.
Okay, so last week we were at Clear Creek Abbey, and we were fortunate enough to be recording with one of the monks, Brother Nesbitt, and they converse in Latin. Not only do they do all their prayers in Latin, but they all know Latin. Like they're fluent and they speak it to each other. And so he's on there, and I said, "Iubentium Jesu," which Google Translate, I went back and checked, still says means cheers to Jesus. And he was like, "Oh, well, I'm not sure." And he was very polite on there. And then as soon as the segment was over, he starts laughing and goes, "Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense." It doesn't mean cheers to Jesus. I don't know what it means, but it doesn't mean. And he's like, later on, I met him like later that day, and he said, "I've been thinking about it, and it means something like, to you who is one," and it like meant this weird kind of convoluted
Phrasing, yeah.
Anyway, if you
Google got it wrong, brother.
they lied
Yeah,
to me.
they
lied to
lied.
me, and it's still. I checked it again today.
Yeah.
It says
Dude,
Iubentium.
Dude, but not only did he call you out on the Latin part, but he called you out on the philosophical understanding of cheers to Jesus.
Which I have. He said it doesn't make sense to cheers to Jesus because you don't wish. It's like you're wishing something to him, but he has everything already. I don't think.
Which could be just like epically terrible for our like tagline because we built this whole cheers to Jesus, and it could just completely crumble.
I have thought about this, and I think he was conflating toasting someone and cheersing to someone. So when you toast someone, at a wedding, and it's like, may the bride and groom have all these, like that's a toast. A cheers is just to Adam. Like we're celebrating Adam with this drink. So when you cheers Jesus, we're celebrating Jesus. So I think it's still fine.
Whew.
I think so. I would agree with that, David. I think you have salvaged the Catholic man mantra, man.
By the grace of God.
We were sweating bullets over here, like saying lies this whole time.
So what do you think? You tried it.
Okay, so yeah, I think that it. I get hints of berry. I mean, the cabs for me are. I'm assuming this is a cab. Is this a cab?
No, it's a claret.
Okay. I'm very unfamiliar with clarets, but I have.
We're drinking Donati Family Vineyard. DFV is the name. It's a claret. It's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. I've never heard of Cabernet Franc, a different Cabernet grape.
Apparently, you don't know what's going on, but
It's from California.
yeah, where you're from, Karlo?
You guys have good grapes there in California.
That's what I'm
Phenomenal.
told. I don't get
Phenomenal.
out much, man. I go to work, I come home, take care of family. That's about it.
Yeah, So Karlo, just for those who may be just tuning into our show, this is their first time. You've been on the show about, I think this is your third time now. But the first thing we do is open review and enjoy a man beverage, and that's just to showcase the virtue of moderation. It's to promote the virtue of temperance. We enjoy it. We enjoy the finer things in life. We have a very Chestertonian angle to it, where the virtue is always in the middle, and you can enjoy these things in moderation. It kind of cultivates a friendship. And
it's about building
discussion,
building community.
Yeah, kind of like whenever Dave, you always say it's kind of like when you share a meal with somebody. It's kind of the same thing with like sharing a drink with somebody.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So,
Karlo,
as I would say, in light of my Spitzerian training with Father Robert Spitzer, it's the enjoyment of level 1 happiness in light of level 4 happiness.
Ooh.
Enjoying the created goods, but with an eternal perspective.
I like that.
And we actually talked about the 4 levels of manliness on the first time you came on,
which are based off of
4 levels of happiness.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. That is, there's nothing wrong with pursuing pleasures in life as long as they're pursued, as you mentioned, Adam, in moderation. But that's motivated and driven for us as Christian men, particularly Catholic men, by the eternal perspective. We partake of these goods in moderation, not only for our own good and virtue, but ultimately for our union with God. And it is precisely in light of that eternal perspective that allows us to enjoy the created goods all the more. And it makes it that much more pleasurable.
Yes, sir.
Totally.
Yes, sir. So when we get back, we're going to check Facebook Live, because we are Facebook Live right now. But when we get back, we're going to jump into the man gear. Here with Karlo Broussard from Catholic.com. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. All right. Let's see. We got about 17 people going on right now. Let's see. Michael Moore. Michael said, he said, I knew you would forget the notes. he called you out, dude.
He even sent them to me. He emailed them to me and then figured out, I can even send them to you here on Facebook Messenger. So I have no excuse to have forgotten them. I have them pulled up. I pulled them up on my way over here so that I would remember to listen to them. Let's play them now for our Facebook audience.
How long is it?
A minute.
Okay. We'll go a minute. Hey, your boy Adam Conk's watching, Karlo.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. This wine is from the Donati family vineyards. They're out of the Piacines Valley of the Central Coast, which is about 40 miles east of Monterey. Claret is actually an old English term for a Bordeaux-style blend. So the Donati family Claret is a Bordeaux-style blend, a blend predominantly of Cabernet Merlot, a little Cabernet Franc blended in. In some areas of California, they'll call this a Meritage or a Meritage. But this one is, I would describe it as California meets Bordeaux. It's got the really nice, rich, kind of dark characteristics of a Bordeaux, but the really nice, generous fruit characteristics of the California wines. It's not a complete fruit bomb. It does have acidity and balance. But this is one you can open it up, maybe let it breathe a little bit, but actually it's very drinkable on its own and goes quite nicely with red meat dishes and stews.
Okay. So we're pretty close. I said berries.
Yeah.
I said fruit. Yeah.
Drinking wine.
Yeah. I was a safe bet. It was a safe bet, dude. Like,
there you go, brother. Keep it general, man.
Picking up on any grape in here?
Yeah.
Am I crazy? Is there a grape in here?
Oh man. Margot, shout out to Margot. Margot was asking for a shout out, so our good friend Margot Basso.
Hi, Margot. Can they hear right now?
Yeah, they can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what do we break on? Your radio podcast thing?
Yeah, it's just the radio part. Okay, so we'll get to the gear with knife. You good with that? You ready to roll?
I don't have anything to say, but I'll see if I can figure something out.
Oh, you can do it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can do it.
I'm not worried.
All right, here
We'll
we
tee
go.
up. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan. We are in studio. We are joined via VMix call by the one and only Karlo Broussard, the Cajun uncaging the truth. We're about to uncage some truth on you with the man gear. The man gear today is epic. As they all are. But check this out. It's the Jackknife 3000.
Is that what he says?
I don't know.
I don't remember either.
You ever seen the movie Talladega Nights, Carlo?
No, I have not.
You're not missing.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We're-
It's one
I'm
of
not-
those movies that if you saw it when you were in college, it's still epic in your mind.
But then if you go back and watch it, you
It's
realize
not
it's
the- yeah,
not
so
good.
you shouldn't do that because you'll ruin it.
Yeah.
Anyway, never mind.
Yeah. It's a knife.
It's a knife.
We-
Check it out.
The very first
Can you even
episode
see
of
it?
Yeah, the very first episode of the Catholic Man Show, we did a pocket knife as the man gear. That was the very first thing we
Yeah,
did.
put it up on the
Bev cam?
Bev cam. Let's
Okay.
see if I can Bev cam it over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Check this out. So this knife, Carlo, I was telling you this before we got started. This is not a knife that I purchased at the store. I had this forged from a real life blacksmith kid.
Compared to a dead blacksmith?
As opposed to like a machine.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were clear.
There was a man who heated this up and pounded it with his hammers. And it is epic. It is my favorite. Oh, there we go. That's better right there.
It is a nice knife.
Thank you. But the man gear today is the fixed blade knife,
Correct.
as opposed to the pocket knife, or even other folding knives. There's other folding knives,
Switchblade or
that you wouldn't consider a pocket knife,
Right.
you know. But the fixed blade knife, very big for hunting.
Yeah, dude. Carlo, I went hunting this weekend. This was the opening season of black powder for deer hunting, and went hunting this weekend. And so hunting teaches a man so much. And I'm just now getting into hunting. Last year was my first year to hunt. And I'm learning so much as we go. But
Are you going to tell the story?
I'm going to try to just condense it down
Okay.
to really fast. Got out there early morning. Dew still in the yard. I mean, all over the grass, foggy. I see the first buck, and I'm like, oh yes, because anytime you see anything, hunting, it gets you excited, right? Because most of the time you're just sitting up there, not doing much. Buck was way too small, so I got a chance to watch it. Anyway, so a couple doe come out maybe an hour later. I look and I'm like, oh cool, I get to watch it. Well, the doe were actually like looking at a buck that I couldn't see. So the buck comes walking out. And he's right behind a tree, so I can't quite see how big he is. But I thought, I'm sitting there looking at him, and I see how big his body is. I'm thinking, like, so this got to be a pretty good one. This has got to be a pretty good buck. And I finally get close enough, or he finally turns his head just enough to where I could finally get a little bit of a shot or a look at him. And I thought, I couldn't make up my mind, And so I decided I'm just going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger. I eat the meat, anyway, so it's not like I'm not trophy hunting, but so I pull it. I shot him. He runs into the high grass. I finally, so I get down. I call my buddy. Say, hey, come on. I gotta show you. I got somebody. Come help me. I got the deer. Come help me. And he comes over. Not somebody. Yeah. He comes over and we track him down, and like I find him in the tall grass, and I like pull it up, and I go, oh. That one's mine? No, that can't be mine.
That's a raccoon.
That can't be mine. Like I thought, like this deer had like ground shrinkage, man. Like he must have had this big old antlers, and then as soon as he hit the ground, that ground just shrunk his antlers way down. It was way smaller than what I thought it was going to be. Anyway, so I did get a buck, but it was way smaller. I used my knife. used it.
Do you have it?
No, it's downstairs. But
I thought you were going to have it for the
sorry,
episode.
I forgot. That was the one thing I forgot.
That's a failure.
I'm sorry. But I used my knife to skin it, cut them all up, quarter them out, and get those back straps off there. And anyway, I had to have that knife. The important thing about a knife, man, is it has to, especially with deer hunting, like it has to be sharp, and you have to it has to stay sharp for a while.
Yeah. Yes, you need a good edge.
Yeah, you got to have a good edge.
Which comes down to...
Well, congratulations on your kill, Adam.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Even though it was kind of it's kind of like a good news, bad news. I got one, but it's like, yeah, I don't want to brag about this one. You know what I mean?
It was testing. It was testing your comment of whether your motivation was trophy hunting or hunting for food.
Right, but with hunting, it can be a both and, right? Why not both and? It can, if you're gonna get the meat, it'd be nice to have a knife. It'd be nice to have one that you can brag about.
Yeah, have a good picture to go along
yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Anyway, so I use the knife. So, the idea of a knife is very important within hunting, but it's also important when we were at the camp out. We had several guys carrying fixed blade knives all over the place.
Small swords in some cases. So there are just some jobs that a folding knife is not going to be able to handle quite as well. When it comes to something skinning, if you're going to be needing to put a lot of pressure on a knife, you want something that is high quality. I mean, don't get me wrong. You could go spend a lot of money on a nice folding knife that's going to be able to skin a deer.
Sure. The first one I did, I skinned one with a case knife.
Yeah. Okay. And then those are good knives.
Right.
But there's something about just the fixed blade.
Mm-hmm.
You can get typically a bigger knife because, the handle is not, the blade is longer than the handle on this knife.
Correct.
It's just well balanced. I just really like this knife. Anyway.
And it just looks cool whenever you sheath it. Right?
Totally.
And it's
It does.
sticking out, and it just looks bad.
Yes.
You know what?
Yeah,
it just looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it shows that you're prepared. That's another thing it does.
Amen.
It shows that you're a man who's prepared for any situation.
Yeah.
Requiring a knife.
Yeah. So our buddy
That's
Aaron.
very appropriate, and that's very appropriate for us as Catholic men, precisely because, as St. Peter says in 1 Peter 3:15, always be ready or prepared to give a reason or a defense or an answer to anyone who asketh you a reason for the hope that is within you. So that ties in very nicely with the idea of apologetics and being ready to defend our faith.
Word.
Can I ask you this? This is gonna get us off track. I'll let you get us back on.
Okay.
But I want to talk about this verse really fast because everybody uses this verse, to talk about the apologetic side. But I think that a lot of people miss the ending part of that verse because
With gentleness and kindness.
well, no, the hope that is within you, because
Oh,
that is assuming, that presupposes that you're living in a way that somebody recognizes that you are living countercultural to what everybody else is doing because you have something different about you, this hope that's engaging them for this conversation, right? Because if you're defending,
if they didn't know you had it, they wouldn't be asking or inquiring in the first place.
right, exactly. So I think a lot of people use this verse, and rightly so, to talk about the defense of our faith. But as men, especially, I think we can get into this idea of always wanting to have the right answer, always wanting to have the answer for the question. But with that verse, it's showing that you have to live it. It's not just about the head knowledge, but you have to be living that faith, because it has to showcase that, okay, there's something different about you. That's why I'm engaging you and I'm questioning you, and that's why you have to have the right answer. You have to have the apologetic side for that question.
Yeah.
Do you think that is that correct exegesis, I guess, of that verse?
Yeah, no, Adam, that's a good insight. I mean, because the hope within us is our trust in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. That's going to transform the way we live our lives. That's going to affect how we order our lives and the way in which we behave. Waiting in joyful hope for the coming of our Savior Jesus Christ. That's going to give us purpose and meaning in life that goes beyond a purpose and meaning that the world can give. That's going to bring about a certain joy and happiness within our lives. That's going to manifest itself externally in our smile and the way we interact with people. And as you mentioned, people are going to pick up on that. And whenever you live in a culture that's not Christian, right, and you're behaving in a way that's countercultural, well, then it becomes very easy to identify, oh, yeah, he's a Christian, right? Oh, yeah, he's a Catholic. And so thus it brings forth the questioning. The questions begin to arise. Oh, you're Catholic? Right. Yeah, you don't do that stuff. Okay, well, why don't you do that stuff, right? Why do you believe what you believe? So I think you're spot on, Adam. We have to know the answer in more ways than one, right? The answer is fundamentally Jesus himself, who is the truth, as he says in John 14:6, right? I mean, he is God made flesh. So we not only have to know him intellectually to be able to share him with others and persuade others to embrace him as truth, but we have to know him experientially within an intimate relationship with him, within a friendship. And that, of course, is going to drive and motivate us and going to influence the way in which we do actually defend him. And this is why St. Peter will say, with gentleness, kindness, with reverence, the idea of reverencing the person to whom we're speaking in apologetics.
Okay, good. I'm just I've been thinking about that for a long time, and I haven't had a chance to really ask somebody if that's even correct. So I'm glad I had a chance. Anyway, the knife.
I like it.
Okay, good. The knife. Also, the reason why we picked it is because we're going to be talking about philosophy in the next two segments. Philosophy helps sharpen the mind, similar to how a knife is ready to get sharp. There's another connection. So
and philosophy. Oh, you saving the other connection?
Yep.
I can't wait to hear it, man.
All right, we're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. We'll be right back. Karlo Broussard here. Hang in.
Okay. I'm trying to see if I can do something real fast.
Margo, we are not going to zoom in on my mustache. I think that has been something that has been... Anyway, we're not doing that.
I don't know, man.
No, we will not.
I noticed the mustache too, man. It wasn't connected to the bottom.
So I didn't over the camp out last weekend. We didn't. I didn't shave, and so the worst part, I can't grow a beard. I'd love to, just not in the cards. That's not how God made. He just said, "Sorry, you're not gonna be able to do that." And so I had already gotten through the really bad part of growing a goatee or a mustache if you can. The first few days is always ugh. I'm not sure if you've actually shaven or not. So I just decided to write it out, contrary to really what everybody probably told me. I said, no. Well, here's the deal, Karlo. Everybody says, you got to give it at least 4 weeks. You got to give it a month. And it's listen, I've gone 3 weeks before, and it looked terrible. But everybody says, go 4 weeks. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go 4 weeks just so that way I can say, listen, I've done that. It still doesn't work. So, and I'm sure my wife will be ready for that 4 weeks to be over.
Amen.
Anyway, I'm not doing it, Margo. Okay. Oh, yeah, turn that on. Okay, I don't think I'm going to answer any more questions right now.
Speaking of beards,
yes.
Adam Conk there, listening, a friend from Louisiana, he just grew a full beard.
Dude, I saw that. It's what did he he woke up all of a sudden, and I saw you post a picture.
What's up, Adam?
Man, that was I just saw a picture of him with his wife on Facebook. He posted, and I was like, wow, that was quick. Most guys, I guess, only need a few days. I'm an exception, but
there you go. That's anyway. All right, man. At least you're not werewolf Jack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess that's it's one of those grasses always greener on the other side.
Amen.
All right, you ready, Dave? Are you? Oh, hold on, Karlo. There we go.
Stand by.
Dave's is just messing with this.
I need something.
I'm really glad you had... Oh, go ahead.
when I talk to you guys, it's a little bit of delay for you hearing me. So,
Okay.
but I mean, I think it'll still work.
Okay. That's weird because I like your lips and the audio in your lips are good. Like I can't tell a difference. So it must just be just a little bit of a delay.
On my side, yeah.
Okay. Well, we put a 7-second delay on you, like TV does, just in case
Right.
you cuss or you have material
drop a
heresy, material heresy, something like that. We can bleep it
man,
out.
I was a good boy. Second part of that word previously.
Oh,
There we
man.
go. There we
Okay.
go. Now we can share Karlo with the people better.
Okay. Good. That's what they want
I
anyway.
was
That's
trying
why
to
they're
figure
here.
out like why he was so zoomed in. I did figure it out.
Good.
Like
I'm
while we're
glad I
having
didn't have any stuff hanging out. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Anything else that we needed to discuss before we? Oh, Karlo, I didn't really tell you exactly how we were. I don't think we need to. We're just going to talk about philosophy. I'm
ready.
going to be able
Three
to just
philosophers, why it's important for us as men.
right, and I'm just
Yeah,
going to start asking you questions that you're going to be able to. I
Did you see
mean,
that?
Ooh,
that was
pretty
nice.
good, bro.
Oh yeah, that is nice. Yeah, that is nice. But
So
yeah,
you're gonna tee it up with your connection with the knife.
yes, yeah,
You said you had one more
Sorry.
connection.
That was
yeah.
nice.
Well, and it's not. It wasn't really all that great, but yeah, I'll bring that in, and then we'll just kind of start it out.
Yep.
And
I'll follow your lead, brother. You lead
All
the
right.
way.
all right, you ready, Dave? Let's get it going.
I forgot the mouse.
Oh, okay. Gotta get. We're ready to. If we
It's
could
so
just get a
hard when-
producer, if we
when
could just
Juan's not
when
here.
Juan's not
It's so-
here, and we don't like
so
our producer, we don't pay. He's our buddy Juan.
We do give him drinks though.
We do give him drinks. We pay him in drinks, but when he's not here and we have to do it ourselves, makes it tough.
Art thou ready?
Thine ready.
That's not
Thine
right.
ready,
Everybody
yes.
does that.
Whatever.
Everybody says thine.
I don't know. What is I? I art's ready?
Yes, exactly. It's like it's just
Went to the
I.
Anglican. I just went to the Anglican youth mass today, so I should remember, but I can't remember it.
Really?
Yeah,
We
we
have-
have an
we-
Anglican youth, an ordinariate parish right down the road from my house.
We have a couple of Anglican Youth Council of Man people, and I wish there was one here in Tulsa because every time I hear about it, it's very awesome and beautiful. And
Yeah,
Sam-
it really is. It really is a beautiful liturgy. I was impressed the first time I experienced it.
I want to do. I really want to do Byzantine.
I want to do that.
I want to participate in that. I've
They
never done that
might be bringing a Byzantine back to Tulsa.
before. Really?
Not sure if I'm actually supposed to tell you that.
Okay. Well, don't worry. We'll keep it. It's only on Facebook. No one really knows.
Yeah.
That was silly. All right, let's get going.
Okay, here we go.
Before he says something
Say
else.
might.
Yeah, might.
Might.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sitting here with Karlo Broussard, or actually not sitting here, joined via VMix call with Karlo Broussard, the Cajun uncaging the truth. Enjoying a nice glass of claret by Michael, who Michael Moore sent that to us, so we're very grateful.
Yes.
Are you going to cheers?
Yes, we
Toast him?
Let us lift our glasses to the man, Michael Moore, who, I'll tell you, it was he worked hard to get this bottle of wine to us, and I just could not be more appreciative. I have found it to be delicious.
And nutritious because it has grapes.
Yeah. Are you picking up a hint of grape in this? But honestly, really, Michael, I raise my glass to you. I pray that your heart will be continually converted over the remainder of your life, as I pray all of ours will. But may we raise a glass together in heaven.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay,
Cheers
so
with my kitty cup here.
dude,
Is there a lid on that?
No, man, there's not, but it's pretty cool kitty cup, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so before the break, we were saying that we had a knife. We're talking about philosophy today. We're here with Karlo Broussard. A knife cuts things. Philosophy, like
A knife
cuts things.
cuts things.
Philosophy cuts through a lot of the bull crap that people talk about.
So much bull crap.
And because I think we stopped talking about logic, or we stopped teaching it in schools, logic, rhetoric, philosophy, I think that plays a role into where we are today, because people can't even form arguments or form a logical thought process.
Yeah.
And that's very important to be able to do. In fact, the reason why I'm so excited about this topic is because philosophy fascinates me. I love learning more about it, but I've never been taught. You know, the only time I ever took a philosophy class was in college, and it was like Intro to Life Philosophy, and it was really a blow-off class. It was an elective class. The teacher didn't do anything. So anyway, like, I constantly want to learn more about it, but I was never trained.
Yeah, I took a philosophy class in college, but my professor had a ponytail.
Okay. Where's the correlation there?
There's some good philosophers with ponytails out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
I'm not.
We were just talking about we're just talking about logical arguments here, and I'm just like, you just laid out a very like fallacious argument.
You are correct.
So
that is
Hey,
true. That
man, good job, Adam.
that
Very
is
good.
fallacious.
Fallacious
I will
argument.
grant. However, this was not a particularly strong ponytail.
Okay, so Karlo, let me ask you. So let's start it off here. Why should a regular, Catholic man, the average Joe Catholic guy, why should he care or want to learn about philosophy?
Well, first of all, you have to understand what is philosophy, right? So philosophy is a branch of knowledge that concerns itself with finding the ultimate causes in things. So in distinction from science, you might be maybe a more concrete understanding of that will be to contrast it with modern methods of science. So all of these different forms of inquiry, we're trying to arrive at knowledge about what is real, knowledge about reality, but under different aspects. So, for example, modern physics will pursue and inquire about matter, look at matter to try to understand matter, but under the aspect of material things in motion, right? And how the fundamental elements of matter react to each other and react with forces of nature. Chemistry looks at matter, but under the aspect of composition. Biology will look at material things insofar as they are living material things and the various material components that go together to make up a living organism, right? Well, philosophy looks at reality itself, looks at things that exist, but under the aspect of the deepest, most fundamental causes and principles that constitute that thing that I'm looking at. So let's just take the human being, for example, right? I mean, science can tell us all about the matter that makes us up and the fundamental elements that constitute the body, going down to the molecules, to the atoms, to the protons, to the quarks, right? But philosophy transcends that methodology, goes beyond what science can give us in order to explain certain features about the human being and about other things within the world that go beyond the boundaries of what the modern methods of science can tell us about. So think of it like this. Suppose we have an infrared camera, right? And we're looking through this infrared camera, and I'm looking at Adam and David, right? And all I see is the signal from the heat that you're putting off being transformed and put on the video screen, right?
In my case, that would be pretty bright. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I would only see the heat that you're radiating, right? So notice that the camera is restricted in what it captures about you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But there's more to you that I can come to know about beyond the tool of the infrared camera. Similarly, the modern methods of science will capture certain aspects of the world, of reality, but philosophy is the tool that allows us to go beyond what the modern methods of science can detect and come to know certain aspects about reality that the modern methods of science cannot tell us about. So, for example, if we're looking at the human being, I'm going to use philosophy to arrive at knowledge that you as a human being are not just a conglomeration of atoms, right? Not just a conglomeration of material stuff, but that material stuff is actually structured and configured in a certain way that distinguishes you as a human being from the plant outside, right? That there are different kinds of things, not just a different material makeup, but two different kinds of things with different operations, different activities, different things that you do. And so you have different natures. You have different sources of power or operation. You got a plant and you got a human being. And then I use philosophy in order to determine, well, that plant is distinguished from the rock. So I have a non-living thing and a living thing. What is it that distinguishes the plant from the rock as a living being? We call it a soul. So there I'm doing philosophy. But then I look at the human being and the plant, and I say, well, the human being is a living being as well as the plant is. These are two living beings, but yet these two different types of beings have four different powers. The human being has some powers that share with the plant. You know, you take in nutrients, you reproduce, etc. But there are certain things that a human being does that the plant doesn't do, such as having sensation, right? Of course, animals have that as well, but even above the animals, we have intellect, we have will, right? So we can know things, we can love, right? And in that inquiry of coming to know about the nature of the human being, I'm using the tool of philosophy, coming to know about things and explain things about you as a human being, principles about the human being, the nature of the human being, that science simply cannot capture in its snapshot of what is real. So this is what philosophy does. It explains the fundamental principles and causes of reality, of things that exist. And here's why it's important, guys. Check this out. Because whenever you engage in philosophy and you begin to think, okay, I have this being here that's distinct from nothing, right? And so it actually exists. And that's the first thing the intellect observes and comes to know. There's something distinct from nothing, right? And then I begin to inquire, well, why does this thing exist rather than not exist? You see? And when I go through the philosophical analysis, I come to understand, well, this thing doesn't exist by nature, like a triangle has three straight sides by nature, right? I mean, a triangle can never not have three straight sides because three straight sides belongs to the essence of a triangle, right? Well, that tree outside, and David and Adam, there was a time when these things didn't exist, right? So I know these things don't have existence by nature like a triangle has three straight sides by nature. So there's a distinction between what you are, right, and that you are.
Yeah.
What is, you're a human being, that you are, you exist. There's a distinction between the two. They're not the same. And that, guys, allows me to go on a philosophical journey to inquire about, well, okay, well, why is it the fact that this thing, this human thing, Adam, David, Karlo, the tree outside, exists, has existence, rather than not have existence? And ultimately, the answer to that question is that there is some cause that is existence by nature.
Outside of ourselves.
Outside of ourselves.
That simply of some cause whose nature, it belongs to its nature simply to exist. And that reality, ultimately speaking, is what we call God. And the reason why I bring that up, guys, now granted, we would need to go through that step by step to give a robust demonstration of that, but that's a sketch. But the reason why it's important is because without the causal activity, without the acting power of that uncaused cause, that's not caused to exist by anything else, but has existence by its nature, if it were not for the acting power of that uncaused cause right here and right now, gentlemen, we would lapse into nothingness. We would not exist and be distinguished from nothing. And that is something to give rise to be grateful for.
All right. Carlo,
I'm glad we got the foundation.
I feel like you have set the stage so well.
Yeah.
We got to take our last break. When we get back, we're going to finish this conversation on philosophy. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Sweet. So now that we kind of have the foundation of, why is it important, what it really is, I'd like to, if possible, start talking a little bit about the philosophers that. Oh yeah, you just dropped the cork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes out like that.
Philosophers that we need to know about. Because to me, philosophy. When I first started trying to read philosophy, there's some crazy philosophers out there. I'm not wasting my time at the beginning with Hegel. I'm not messing with him. Nietzsche. We let's wait on him.
You should read Nietzsche though eventually.
Yeah, I said, but
you have to have a framework before you can assess
right
other philosophers.
Right,
you have to have something to operate on.
Once you have
John Locke. There's some.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention three contemporary guys that will serve as a good introduction to philosophy. One thing before we do that, I'd like to put a pretty bow on what I was talking about, because notice I was referring to God as the efficient cause, but also he's our final cause, and that's why philosophy is important, because it allows us to come to know the purpose and meaning of life for the sake of happiness, to know that we have an ultimate end to order our lives.
Excellent.
To. And then you can...
Do you have maybe 5 minutes after, so we have 12 minutes left. Do you have 5 minutes after that we can record just a quick blurb for the Council of Man?
Yeah.
That work?
No problem.
Okay.
I also, once you wrap your bow, I have kind of a soapbox about science. People are about science. And I want to pitch it to you, and you can tell me if I'm on the right page or not. So anyway.
Okay.
Let's get started.
It's 50-50. It could go either way.
It's totally 50-50. Except one of the 50 has a lot higher chance of being right than the other 50.
See? Another fallacy.
Unknown. It's unknown, though, which 50 is which. All right, here we go. And welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I am David Niles. I'm here with Adam Minahan. We are joined by Karlo Broussard, the Cajun uncaging the truth. He's uncaging some truth on philosophy with us. And Karlo, you wanted to put a bow to tie it up
Very
nicely.
manly, isn't it?
A manly bow. Maybe a bowline. Not a bow, but a bowline. Which is a knot. That is
a knot.
That
a
is
bowline knot.
That is a knot. It's the kind of knot that doesn't move. It's not a slip knot. When you tie a bowline, it is not going anywhere. I actually can tie a one-handed bowline. Thank you very much. It's a thing in the Boy Scouts. If you fall rock climbing and you break one arm, you need to be able to tie one around yourself so that you can be hoisted up. Anyway.
Yeah, we're way off. Okay.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So speaking of being hoisted up, before we went to the break, I was talking about the importance of philosophy, and philosophy being the branch of knowledge that concerns itself with finding the ultimate causes of things. And I sketched out how we can philosophically inquire as to why something exists rather than not exist, and come to the conclusion that the answer to that question is ultimately an uncaused cause who has existence by nature, namely God. But that's as what we call in philosophy an efficient cause, right? That which sort of, you might think of the train or me pushing my pen, pushing the pencil, right? An efficient cause. Or God causing us to exist and sustaining us in existence right now. But we can also arrive at knowledge of our ultimate cause, not as by way of an efficient cause, but what we call in philosophy a final cause. That is to say, our ultimate end to which we're ordered. And that ultimate goal, that ultimate end to which we're ordered, is the same reality that is our ultimate efficient cause and the reason why we exist, namely God himself. And when we look at it from that perspective, gentlemen, we see why philosophy is important, because it can give us knowledge about the ultimate purpose and meaning of our lives, namely to come into union with, to achieve, to possess our ultimate end or goal, namely God himself, which will bring about perfection for us as human beings. He is our ultimate good. The good is that which is perfective of our nature, that which we're ordered to, given the kinds of things that we're ordered. And since God is our ultimate good, when we come to possess him, when we come to achieve that ultimate end, we will experience happiness. So philosophy is primarily important for us in order to have purpose, to find and become aware of the purpose and meaning of life, so that, gentlemen, check this out, we can exercise the office of the wise man. And the office of the wise man is the man who orders and governs according to the end. And that's why philosophy is ultimately important for us as Catholic men.
Okay, so Karlo, let me ask you this, because this is a science. I actually love science. I'm a big science guy, but what I don't like is when people think, oh, science is this, big fancy science, and philosophy is like kind of this thing in the corner. It makes me think, you know what? You wouldn't even have your precious science without philosophy. The way I kind of think about it is that science is really a small subset of philosophy. Philosophy.
Yeah, well, in ancient times, what we call science today, modern science, was considered just simply philosophy. It was a branch of philosophy in ancient times.
Yeah.
But because in our modern times, we've had a further and further division of things, what we call philosophy today is something distinct from the modern methods of science. But David, what you're bringing up is what is known as scientism, which states that science is our only source of genuine knowledge, and that philosophy does not give us genuine knowledge and is merely subjective knowledge. But check this out, gentlemen. That claim in and of itself is a philosophical claim.
Right.
Booyah.
Because you can't scientifically prove that.
Booyah.
That's right. The truth value of that statement is not the product of the modern methods of scientific inquiry.
Right.
Yeah, and
So
Karlo,
you
I
have
think
to do philosophy in order to make that statement. And this is why philosophy is important, in order to sift through those smoke screens and expose the fallacious reasoning of such erroneous claims.
I think the reason for this, for scientism, is because people don't even understand what science actually does. They think that science tells us what we know. And in fact, the scientific method only really tells us what is not true. It doesn't tell us what is true, because the scientific method, by its nature, does not prove a hypothesis correct. It can only disprove a hypothesis. You could do an experiment 5 times and it might work, and then the 6th time you do it all exactly the same and it doesn't work. And so now well, maybe this hypothesis is incorrect. It's only by philosophy, when we can now take the scientific method, rule out. What we can do is rule out certain hypotheses or certain hypotheses. Yeah. And so we know now gravity doesn't go up. We tried that and it didn't. It's never worked. It always goes down. So he's like, you can then apply philosophy to these things that you've been able to rule out, and use your logic to say now what we do know. So the scientific method doesn't actually teach us anything except things that are not true. Does that make sense? Is that true?
Science can give us evidence that leads to the truth of a certain hypothesis. And what we call that in philosophy is probabilistic argumentation or probabilistic reasoning. So it's a qualified truth. So we have good reason to think X, but given the very methodology of science, which must always be open to new data, right? It's a qualified truth claim. So it's probabilistic. Yeah. The certitude is not metaphysical certainty like you can have in philosophy, such as something cannot both be and not be in the same respect at the same place and time, right? The principle of non-contradiction. That's a metaphysical certainty because you have to assume the truth of that principle in order to deny it to begin with, right? Or that philosophy is a valid form of knowledge. To actually deny that statement, you have to assume the truth and the validity of philosophical inquiry, right?
Yeah.
But within the modern methods of science, it can give us knowledge about reality, but we always recognize, because of its inductive method, we must always recognize that there could be new data in the future that could alter our current scientific theories that explain certain things about reality.
Yeah.
So it would be rational for a person to accept the conclusion of a scientific theory given the various set of evidence, the various sets of evidence, all pointing to the truth of one hypothesis. That's a rational conclusion, recognizing that the truth of that conclusion is qualified truth, is probabilistic, right? So your certainty is not as sound as you can arrive at through philosophical inquiry. And this is the myth of modernity that the modern narrative has created. Science is the only objective certain knowledge. Philosophy and religion is objective, non-certain knowledge, but it's actually the opposite.
Right. Okay, so we don't have very much time left. We only have a few minutes left, so, and we can't get out of this episode without at least talking a little bit about Augustine and Aquinas. You know, the basically kind of the two that have you have to talk about when you talk about philosophy in the Catholic realm. I want to talk a little bit about maybe, you know, obviously we have you start out with, you know, Plato wrote with Socrates, and you have Aristotle, and you have Aquinas, and you have and Augustine. I mean, we have all these treasures that the church has given us, you know, with philosophy that guys need to read, obviously, but give us maybe a couple that you would say you guys need to read this for sure, that, you know, that are non-modern philosophers, and then maybe some that are either living today or modern philosophers that we need to read as well.
Yeah. Well, the intellectual giant in our Catholic tradition for philosophy and even theology, and the model and the method with which he used, which has been highly praised by a variety of popes throughout the tradition, is St. Thomas Aquinas, who lived in the 13th century.
The universal doctor.
That's right. You know, and so your listeners can check out Aeterni Patris, which was written, I can't remember the year, but it was an encyclical that was put out praising St. Thomas Aquinas and in the need for good philosophy, and using Aquinas as our guide for good philosophy and the importance of philosophy, right? But in order to sort of understand Aquinas, sometimes we have to read him through a certain lens, right? We need some help because it is pretty intense. It's pretty difficult. So the contemporary philosopher that I would highly, highly recommend your listeners and viewers to check out is Dr. Edward Feser, F-E-S-E-R. He is sort of at the top, the best Thomistic philosopher who's promoting St. Thomas Aquinas' thought in light of Aristotle, you know, the Aristotelian Thomistic worldview, right, of things, and how that can address and combat the modern errors promoted by the new atheists, etc. And so Edward Feser would be the go-to guy, but I would also encourage your listeners to check out Dr. Peter Kreeft, right, K-R-E-E-F-T. He's a great Catholic philosopher. He writes in a very clear and simple way. He does make complex ideas very easy and digestible. And a good sort of introductory book to philosophy would be his book entitled Summa Philosophica. And he basically goes through the 10 categories of philosophy, the different branches of philosophy, and answers various questions pertaining to those branches of philosophy. So Ed Feser and Dr. Peter Kreeft would be two contemporary philosophers I would recommend for your listeners to check out.
All right, well, we gotta tell Michael Moore, thank you so much. If you're listening on the radio, we're going to continue this conversation. We have a little bit more. We're going to go with Karlo with the Council of Man.
Yeah, so if you want to hear his recommendations on where to start, join the Council of Man. You can get this video.
Yep. We're on the Lord's team. Hey, Karlo, thank you so much. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Dude, that was like 2 weeks in a row that you nailed the cheers to Jesus.
I really nailed that one.
That was like, how do you go that low? I can't, there's no way.
Cheers to Jesus.
That was pretty, I mean, the first one was way better.
It was better, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was spot on, man. You were rocking it.
Thank you. I have to like prepare. Guttily? No. I have to prepare. Vocally, I have to. Yeah. To like
warm up the vocal cords.
You know how when you do those like meditation things where you like just like relax every muscle in your toes and then work up to your feet. You know, you like think about I have to do that in my throat. Just totally relax. And it works. Okay.
Okay, so what do we want to do here? We want to sign off on Facebook Live. Is that what we want to do? And then...
Yeah. If I just click this button, will it stop streaming?
Actually, here...
I'm going to click it and then watch your phone. See what happens.
Okay.
Like, let's just see what happens. I mean...
Okay, hold on. It stopped.
Ha!
It did stop. We're no longer on Facebook Live. Yeah.
Which button do I click right here?
That one.
This one?
Yes. Okay, now get out of that.
Exit out. I mean, did it save? Did it
Yeah,
post?
yeah, it posted. Like one time we recorded something and I hit the wrong button, and instead of like posting it to our page, it just basically deleted the video. So
it's like only you could watch it live and then that's it.
And that's all. And it's like, what an epic fail on my part. Anyway. Okay. So we're off Facebook Live.
This is just for the council.
Yeah, and I'll cut the video here. In post.
Stop it. I can stop it and start it again.
Oh yeah, do that. That makes it easier.